In the shadowed valleys of the French Pyrenees, where moss gathers on stone and trees whisper in the wind, lies a forgotten world. A world carved by quiet hands and turned by water-powered wheels now long still, all drawn to the black shimmer of a stone once cherished. Jet, or jet in French, a gem born not in fire, but in silence. Formed from fossilized wood, carved by water and sandstone, adorned for generations, and nearly lost to time. Jet is not a stone in the traditional sense. It's the memory of a tree compressed over millions of years in the ancient forest that once blanketed this region. Trees fell and were buried over time. Pressure turned their lignin and cellulose into something denser, darker, more durable. French jet is prized for its deep black color, its lightness, its smooth polish. It was found in veins beneath the hills of Villac, Rennes-les-Bains, Camon, quiet places where time seems to hold its breath. In April 2025, our team set out on an expedition to discover the forgotten history of French jet. Along with me were gem cutter Victoria Reynaud and Sarah Steele, the world expert on jet from Whitby, England.
So I'm Sarah Caldwell-Steele. I'm working on my PhD thesis on jets, and I've realised that nobody knows anything about French jet. So we need to head to France and look for some.
Mining began in earnest in the 1700s when the demand for jet as an ornamental material grew. The people of the Pays d'Aume carved into their hillsides, digging narrow shafts, often by hand, following the black seams deep into the rock. The work was hard, slow, and dangerous, yet the stone shimmered with promise. Cut into beads, brooches, and crucifixes, it traveled far, reaching Paris, Spain, and even overseas. During our time in the Pays d'Aume, we explored 3 ancient jet mines that were used at various points between the 18th and 20th centuries.
That we are in the middle of the axe of the anticlinal of the Plantorel, which is a front fold from the Pyrenees mountain. And in the heart of this fold, we find the sandstone with the jet inside.
This is our guide for the week, Gabriel Chauvet. Gabriel, a local gem cutter, geologist, and gemologist, wrote a thesis on French jet during his training at GemLab Marseille, which is how we came to know him. Gabriel volunteered to accompany us on our adventure, and he proved an invaluable addition to our team.
I think what's on the track is just falling off with the rain.
Yeah.
But as we will go up, there's some places with jet and other without. So I think we are a little bit close to the rain.
So why is it on this path? It's just the miners were bringing it down this way, or?
So this path is a woodcutter path.
Okay.
This is just a flow, rain flow.
It's not the jet.
It's just washing it down.
Let's continue on the track and then we...
As we made our way up an ancient jet track, Victoria spotted a large black shape sticking out of the ground. A remarkable discovery lay before us.
See, a really quite large piece of jet just in. This is... Oh! We might have to start a mine.
Once we got it out, we washed it off so we could closely inspect and appreciate this excellent specimen of French jet. It was the first big piece we'd seen, and we could recognize the bark texture on the outside, which confirmed that the material was derived from wood and not bitumen, as some papers had suggested.
This would have been an entrance to a mine. Maybe they found, a log outcropping and just sort of followed it in, I guess. Oh yeah. So you think this is a tip, or
Yeah,
maybe?
on this side you have a lot of, I think they just throw on the side.
Yeah.
And you have several.
Inside the mine.
Eventually, we arrived at the ancient jet source. Time had taken its toll and the entrances weren't easily accessible. The best we could do was photograph the inside as we couldn't enter for a closer inspection.
Just like 5 meters deep, you know.
Right on it, don't we?
At the back you can see that the roof has collapsed.
Our search continued, guided by Gabriel's assurance that more mines were hidden in this forest. So this is where the jet's coming from, right here. This is the kind of rock. We found some in this wall already.
So the best stuff's coming out of this, definitely.
That afternoon, our search in the ancient mining area proved remarkably fruitful. In nearly every direction we turned, we spotted signs of jet. Small fragments glinting in the sunlight, nestled among roots and soil.
So that looks a bit like a hole under that tree root, doesn't it, over there?
Exactly.
Some of the jet mines around Whitby are literally, they're going under a tree as if they use the tree to give the entrance stability. Okay. Like a badger hole. You get to the stage where you think, oh, I've got enough now, I can't be bothered to pick it up, don't you?
After a day of exploring, we returned to examine our findings. Striking French jet specimens, each distinct and some ideal for further study. In the Pays d'Homme, jet cutting became a regional art in the villages near the mines. Workshops hummed with the sound of sandstone wheels and hand tools. Artisans used simple instruments, files, blades, leather, sandstone discs powered by water. These cutters knew the stone. They knew how it fractured, how it polished. Each curve and each face held their touch. The mills harnessed the mountain streams. Water turned the wheels turned the grindstones.
So this is a wheel that was used for make the motion in the mill. You had those teeth there, and they were giving the motion to this kind of wheel. You see there's the same kind of wheel, and this was put on the big one and make the bar turn.
The use of water-powered mills for jet manufacturing is unique to France. No other jet center in the world used water-powered mills like this, so we were excited to find some still standing. These aren't symbolic machines, they were the motors of rural industry. A single water wheel could power many workstations for dozens of cutters, all driven by flowing force in hidden clearings. Traces still remain, stone foundations, half-buried gears, and hand-sculpted waterways.
Now the water is going under us, but I think there was a door that blocked the flow, and the water came up on this, you know? That's the edge. And where they can close that to make the flow go in these two windows, and then in the wheel, turn the wheel and go up the edge.
It's unique, isn't it? And there's nothing else. Yeah. So the water would be turning, I get
exactly,
it.
turning in the
that's
well,
what I couldn't understand.
Like
So it was a vertical paddle wheel.
And then the water goes up on the edge of this wall.
It's incredible that one of these old mills still exists with its gearing intact, which allows us to understand and visualize how the jet cutters harness the water power.
We are in one of those last places where you have still the building. You have 3 different factories making combs, working on jet and other stuff.
From Les Peaux, we headed to Bastide-sur-l'Hers, one of the biggest jet-cutting cities of yesteryear. Since the Middle Ages, men diverted the water of the Hers for various industries. Here, it's possible to see two surviving jet mills along the Hers River, one of the largest and most powerful waterways of the area.
So this big building there, yeah, the big white one, is the site of one of the biggest jet mills. I think it's this one that has been built by the owner with the idea to make a six-wheel, a six-station. But when he gets in function, just use half and the other for the combs.
So they're cutting the horn and jet on the same exact mill at the same time?
The same mill, in the same building.
Oh, but not on the same
wheel.
Okay. So each one of those little canals that we saw is would have continued into the big river, so that no water is going in some crazy place. This is pretty smart.
Yeah, that's the exit of the canal, and
Yeah.
the canal. And on the other side, the big yellow building you see there was one of the biggest jet factory.
Yeah. Here we have a sluice gate off of the main river, and they could open this up and let the water come in to power what was one of the biggest jet mills that there were. Then it would have been coming down here.
Yeah.
The water wheel would have been probably in there.
Probably there.
This complex was the mill of the Bez family, called Bez Père et Fils. It started as a jet mill but later turned to manufacturing combs made of horn, another important local industry. In 1900, more than 300 workers were employed here, producing about 5 million combs per year. Yeah, it's huge. One of the biggest factory spaces I've ever seen. La Bastide-sur-l'Hers was one of the first towns where jet workshops were set up in this region, possibly as early as the 14th century. It wasn't until the 17th and 18th centuries that large-scale mills were built to accommodate the growing industry. Our next stop was the neighboring village of Les Parats. Gabriel brought us to the last standing mill there. So the canal comes through, connects over there, and it powers the last jet mill. It looks so nice. Behind the house, it was clear to see the path of the old man-made waterway and witness how it would have fed directly into the old mill, turning a water wheel to power the jet-cutting machines inside. The owner told us he was altering the path of the canal to create an attractive waterside feature for the house. Our tour continued in Sainte-Colombe-sur-l'Hers, once the heart of the ancient jet-cutting trade. Here we found another large mill complex from the last century that has now been converted into apartments and a bed and breakfast. So this is a whole jet mill complex in Sainte-Colombe. And so we can see clearly that the water is definitely going inside of the building down there. Down the road, on an aptly named Rue du Moulin, or Mill Road, we found a time-worn symbol etched into the side of a chapel.
The symbol of St. James from Santiago is the symbol that they carved in Spanish jet for the pilgrims.
Our final stop for the day was the Bel Air Mill, which closed in the 1930s and was the last water-powered mill in operation in the Pays d'Aume. So maybe there was a water wheel somewhere along where the grass is now. Or on the other side. On the other side.
The building is one level higher on the other side.
This is where the waterway went into the mill that's right there. It's deeply satisfying to see so many jet mills still standing, all clustered near rivers or canals built to harness their flow. This dependence on water power is what makes the French jet industry so unique. The following day, we were lucky enough to meet the descendants of the Bel Air Mill owners who had a box of treasures to show us. As mourning jewelry or high fashion, jet was carved into a vast assortment of forms and exported around the world. Following the rhythms of fashion and sentiment, its rise and fall mirrored the changing tastes in jewelry. The couple owned a large collection of jet pieces cut at the Bel Air Mill, along with old invoices and a rare book containing a photograph of the cutters at work. So far, it's the only image we've found that reveals the tools used by French jet cutters, who, as we discovered, were mostly women and young girls. Even after a century in storage, the jet felt warm in the hand, its matte surface catching just enough light to seem alive. At the turn of the last century, French jet jewelry was still deeply tied to mourning traditions. The influence of Victorian grief had crossed the Channel, and in France, jet had become the stone of sorrow. It adorned long, matte black rosaries, crucifixes, and brooches with secret compartments. These weren't just ornaments, they were wearable memory worn close to the heart in times of loss. But as styles evolved, so did jet. During the Art Nouveau period from about 1890, the curves of nature took over. Jet began to appear in pendants shaped like lilies and ivy vines, or in brooches paired with enamel and silver. The deep black of jet added a quiet, elegant contrast to the flowing lines and soft forms of the era. Even in its darkness, jet found a place in beauty. Then came the Art Deco years, the Roaring 20s and Industrial 30s. Jet was reinvented again. Jewelry became bold, geometric, and sharp. Jet was carved into angular bracelets, square beads, and sleek earrings with metallic accents. It was affordable, stylish, and modern. Jet moved from the mourning veil to the dance floor. At this point, we had seen local jet in both rough and finished forms, but we needed help from local experts to better understand the historical context of French jet jewelry.
One worker can do a day 1,500 to 4,000 pieces, depending on their size. Driller made 3,000 to 6,000 all by day.
Wow.
And
50,000 facets. Not stone, but facets.
Facet.
It's still a lot of facets.
A visit to Bruno Evans, author of numerous papers as well as both a master's and PhD thesis on the jet and horn industries, provided us with deeper insights. He showed us samples and shed light on how the industry developed in the Pays Dome.
Found this.
At the north of Peyrepeche's castle.
From the stories preserved in books, we turned to the stories written in the land itself. We sought a broader understanding of how jet forms here and why the mills had to be so closely tied to both the local mines and waterways.
The slope just in front of us, and the hills where we are, and the castle. It's sedimentary rocks that have been lifted and compressed with the mountain that pushes from Spain to north. And in front of us there, we have the Plantorel fold. That's the place we find the jet.
Okay.
In the middle of this big fold. So we have just in front of us the south part of the fold, and then the valley in the middle.
Yeah.
And the cliffs we see with the limestone behind. It's the north part of the fold that goes like that. And so the small hills in the middle of the fold are the rocks that host the jet.
As our expedition continued, we heard a rumor of a surviving jet mill in Léron, the village where the first ever jet mills were built. Our map didn't show it, but we followed the trail and went for a visit. So what do you think? We were not expecting this to really be a jet mill, but it seems like it really is.
It's a real one.
And according to the map, it still makes sense because the map, it's off the map.
It's off the map, but it's not on the map.
Yeah. So the map that's on the website for the area, it cuts off like right around here. And now we have the full map. We can see that we should be standing right inside of there.
Because this whole village was powered by water.
But obviously since then bits have been added and changed, and when it was a farmhouse it had different windows, and that was where the pig lived. And then, sort of it had all sorts of different uses. But the jet mill bit was more or less over, I think, by about the 1600s. But when we were working over there, we did find what I thought were bits of coke, because it was really odd, but it was obviously unpolished jet that I hadn't realised.
Have you got any pieces left? Or?
No.
We didn't notice at the time. 6 feet below here, the wheel. I'll show you, well, there were driving units that sort of took everything across. So you can see them on the beams in there. And so the wheels would have gone in here.
In the Pays Dome, the old jet mills still whisper. Their stone walls are softened by water and time. Their wheels are long stilled, but the presence of water is eternal. In every mill we visited, the story was the same. A river bending like a silver thread through the hills, diverting just slightly, just enough to breathe life into a workshop. There's something deeply poetic about this relationship. The mills did not fight the land, they listened to it. They settled by the streams, not out of convenience, but necessity. Water was their heartbeat. It turned the great wheels that spun the discs that shaped the jet into its final form. It wasn't just engineering, it was choreography, a graceful collaboration between human craft and natural force. The rivers ran through the valleys long before the first millstone turned, and they still run today, carving the same path, whispering the same lullaby. To stand in one of these mills is to feel the pulse of an old world still echoing through the water and wood, a world where time moves slowly and beauty was shaped by the rhythm of the river. To see if there was more to uncover, we turned to a nearby museum dedicated to the region's arts and crafts. In the Musee de Quercorb, we found interesting displays of local trades, blacksmithing, woodworking, and of course jet manufacturing.
Massive jet collection.
Well, I mean,
Better than everybody else's, really.
Collected from people's attics.
but it's good to see that because those, you know, that piece has been faceted and we can clearly see that it's heavily fractured.
Conceivable. Someone could take that piece and polish it.
You're going to have to polish it, yeah.
The museum's jet collection was especially revealing, showcasing unfinished pieces that offered insight into the lapidary process. This was insightful as our gem-cutting quartet was trying to reverse engineer how French lapidaries polished their jet. Historical documents say that they cut and polished the jet on sandstone, but our experience as cutters told us that polishing ultra-soft jet on such coarse material would never work, so we were looking for clues. Our search for polishing wisdom led us to the shop of the only gem cutter in the area who still works with jet, a store run by Gabriel and his wife Sandrine. La Montagne Tonnerre is not only a gem and jewelry shop, but also a lapidary studio.
Black and white marble that has been used in Versailles.
Oh, wow. Oh, you've been busy.
That's better quality than that.
How long did it take you to collect all this?
Oh, several trips.
Is this all from the forest?
Yeah, all from the same place.
Gabriel showed us an impressive trove of jet, offering a rare glimpse into the variety of local material. He also displayed gleaming, hand-finished specimens available for purchase.
Actually, the real bauxite is the white part. Like that.
Aside from French stones, we also had the opportunity to inspect a couple of French-made faceting machines.
This is the Adelin I learned on, that was made by Pierre-Marie Lamouret.
Cool.
Original one,
Yeah.
number 62.
Oh, cool. The jet mines of the Pays Domes still breathe. If you can find them, you might have the opportunity to go inside and feel the weight of centuries. The air is cool, damp, and filled with echoes. But how do you find something that has been lost?
And on the foot of the hill, which I think is the best place to dig, because the axis of the fold is a little bit like that.
Yeah.
If we consider all the.
Okay, yeah, dipping slightly.
Yeah. So here, I think they had to go more deep to get to the depth.
Yeah.
So we've got an old photograph, and we're trying to find that.
And are those people?
Yeah.
So it's big,
So
isn't
it's big
it?
here.
So what clues do we have other than just looking for this visual feature? You have some...
I have the map of the mine,
It's a massive mine, isn't it?
which make more than 150 meters
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
On this picture, the north is on the right, so if we put the north up, The entrance is west. See? Bit northwest. But I think it's better to take the
main track and go
yeah.
back a bit.
So as we're walking along, are you just sort of looking at the formation of the land to try to understand where in the geology we are? So we found our first piece of jet just right on the path.
Let's mark it on the map.
So we're on the right track.
Oh, and we're right near where you said we would be.
Ah, good geologist.
Looks so expensive.
Oh yeah. So we found this is the old mine.
Yeah.
So tell me, what did you do to figure out where this was going to be?
Kind of logic to.
What tools are you using?
We have a site that's called a Geoportail, which we have access to lots of maps from the government or things like that, and all the aerial picture compare or try to see what has changed. If on the old picture, try to see if there are tracks that we can't see now because now there's a lot of more woods.
Much more promising.
So now so you were just saying in the car, we wanted to find the host rock. So this is a good.
So I'm guessing we can see evidence of the shaly layer. Do you see the bluey green?
Yeah.
This is going to be the layer that's got the best jet in it. This grey marley layer here.
Yeah.
That's probably. It looks like it's got quite a bit of botanical material in it, the black bit, so it's certainly a lot of carbon in it. That's the sandstone.
And then underneath is also just a sandstone.
And then you've got a layer that for whatever reason is building up carbon, so plant matter, algae, that sort of thing, and that's where we're getting these sort of grey clay layers.
So now we go inside and see if we can find better layers.
They use a really tough level of stratigraphy to prop the mine. There's no wooden props in here. They're using this sandstone layer and this above us here. The best consolidated layers to prop the mine.
What did you get?
Looks like there's.
Nice.
How's that?
Yeah, he found one piece over here. Finding something in the layer? Oh yeah.
It's not.
Oh.
It's really thin and brittle.
This is one of the widest jet mines I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like the motorway of jet mines. See, we've got shredded sort of vegetable matter in the roof.
I think they took all the food.
Well, we didn't really see many layers where we can actually see the jet in the rock. I mean,
No, I haven't seen anything that's.
what about like on the roof right there?
Yeah, vegetable debris. It's really high energy environment. It's going to shred the wood before it's even deposited, and that's probably why we're finding those tiny little bits.
So do you think the layer of jet is like kind of the hole that we're in? They've hollowed out that whole space, and that's why.
They're just going for this layered shale sandstone layers, and I can only assume there hasn't been they're hitting a few full trees because you wouldn't keep going. Looking at this, you wouldn't keep going. There's nothing in here that's saying to me this is a really jet-rich mine, and yet it must be because they wouldn't have done such a long distance of tunnel.
This mine supplies jet for several
mills. So it must have been really lucrative.
They said that the jet work there comes from here.
Yeah.
In the text that talk about Bel Air,
Yeah.
they say that also it comes from here.
So the pieces that we saw that home to the museum came from this hole.
possibly,
Maybe.
or Spain. Actually, the fact that you've got that's saying they're still mining it in 1930 for that last mill.
So this could also be the last mine, or last mine for the last mill.
It could also be the only large mine.
We give information.
And is it information from the miners?
C'est des informations.
Oui, alors sur l'organisation administrative,
One person has the... Enfin,
Right.
une personne obtient le droit du roi.
Mining rights?
Voter
Mining
ici.
right from the king.
Yep.
So the guy who has the right to mine take a worker from somewhere else.
Les travailleurs
And there
étrangers.
is fighting between the worker from here and the worker
Et
Which year is this? Which
alors,
date?
on est vers 1785.
1785.
Cool, okay. Having had so much luck finding an old mine, we thought we would explore one more. So we drove an hour east towards the area outside Rennes-les-Bains, where an old jet mine survives, and it's said that this is where the sandstone used to make the jet cutting wheels was once extracted.
We are in Rennes-les-Bains, in front of the main jet mine of this area.
I don't know how we're going to go in here.
Well, I mean, I think we're in the arms.
I'm checking if there's no hole hidden under the...
So we've come to the third mine. Again, it's propped completely with this really hard sandstone layer, probably the layer we saw at the previous mine. No evidence of any other propping inside. Unfortunately, the main adit is flooded and too deep for us to go inside. This layer looks a bit like that layer we saw in the other mine, doesn't it? Between the two sandstone.
Unable to proceed into the mine, we decided to climb the cliff face and see if we could discover anything of interest above the entrance. After finding one singular piece of jet, Gabriel made a small discovery. Okay.
It's more cold than jet, but it's...
So we're right above the other hole.
some wood on the rock.
On top of the mine. Wow. Whether a temporary camp built by miners or later construction, the encampment was a fascinating find. Unfortunately, the door was blocked by a fallen rock, so we couldn't go inside. Up. The roof? Wow, it's like a proper roof with tiles and everything. The mining camp was our last discovery of the trip, as our final day had concluded. The story of Jet is a story of time, of the past held in the present. In these hills, beneath these trees, something endures. A black stone born in silence once gave voice to memory. And even now, if you listen closely, you can still hear it speak. As the wheels slowed and the workshops emptied, the story of French Jet slipped into silence. What once rang with the grinding of sandstone and echoed with voices now lies beneath moss and memory. But silence is not absence. Not here. Every stone still buried beneath the hills carries the mark of a vanished craft. Jet remembers. Every bead, every brooch recalls the touch of an artisan, and the water still runs, winding its way through old mill races and forgotten channels, whispering to those who listen. There was a time when running water powered an entire industry, when a black stone born from ancient forests carried generations of memory and craft. That time has passed. The mills are quiet now, but the water still runs. The mines are empty, yet the story hasn't ended. It lingers in the glint of a bead on a string, in the curve of an old brooch. This story is not just a tribute to a stone, but to the people who shaped it, to a region that turned darkness into beauty, to a quiet legacy, written not in gold or diamond, but in the aura of Jet. May we keep listening, may we keep remembering, because some stories like this are worth cutting from the shadows.